everybody. Welcome to Never Show the Monster. I'm Kelly Attaway.
I'm Chelsea Hollander.
And I loved to time that for when you need to take a sip of your coffee.
Drink my coffee. Yeah.
Today is a Shooting the Shit episode. We are going to be talking about this documentary that just came out a couple months ago in September, I think, called The Unbinding, which is by the same folks who did Hellier. If you are a frequent listener of the show, you are familiar with that TV series, I guess you'd call it. It's also a documentary, but it's, episodes. Docuseries. That's right. Mm-hmm. There's a word for this. Oh boy. Okay. Confident.
That's why I'm here. So I get most words wrong, but every now and then I get the ones that you miss. So
together we get most words.
Most words.
Right. At a higher rate than either of us individually.
That's a good point.
Oh boy. Yeah. I loved this. I loved this docuseries. Good Lord. Okay. I loved this documentary. But before we get into it, I wanted to tell you about a scary movie I watched last night. So it is one that we have both seen. It is one that I personally love. I watched The Lost Boys.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I watched The Unholy again. I was like, okay.
That would have been a great bit. No, I watched The Lost Boys for the first time in years and years and years. And something incredible happens in it that do you know what I'm going to say?
Are you going to talk about the saxophone?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, but do tell. I did watch it at the beginning of the pandemic, so in 2020, I watched it with...
That saxophone was incredible, though.
Yeah, that was perfect.
The movie opens with a 10-minute saxophone player. Yeah, that was incredible. Also, Winter's mullet, what's his name?
Kiefer Sutherland?
Bill of and Ted fame.
Oh.
Winter is his last name, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his mullet, astonishing. All of their mullets are incredible, but his really chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it's a nice perm.
Yes, yeah. It's I wonder how long he had to sit.
It's not a perm, it's natural, right? Is it natural?
No, I don't know. Those coils were pretty tight. I wonder how long he had to sit in the salon for.
Alex Winter.
Alex Winter, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you're a vampire, though, the tedium of sitting for a perm is a very short amount of time for an eternal lifespan, right?
Yeah, and they had to have prosthetics on, so it was. We're talking.
I meant within the universe of the film. Yeah,
vampire. Gotcha.
Those prosthetics weren't bad.
No.
Yeah. No, the thing I wanted to talk about is the end. Sorry, y'all, if y'all haven't seen this movie from 1987.
Spoiler.
I'm about to spoil it. Are you ready, everybody? Skip ahead. When they kill Keith, they kill him on antlers.
Oh,
and I was
God.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
We love to see it.
Eventually, we'll have that series where we just go through and talk about them. It will be movies we have already seen, but we will have them.
We're going to be...
Which, unfortunately, the movie Antlers is not listed amongst them.
Wasn't it? Yes, it was. Wasn't it?
He survived.
Oh.
Right?
You're right.
The one antler...
Wait. The main character survived, but his cop partner, who you loved so much, did not survive.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm there. I definitely remember this movie very well.
I did find myself thinking about it the other day. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, is this another one that's going to sneak up on me and I'm going to really like it on a long enough timeline?
I mean, I liked it when I watched it, and I was like, I thought about it the other day too, and I was like, I kind of want to watch it again because we were talking about how great that series was. It was the Cryptid series, so
yes, yeah,
still 10 out of 10. Loved every. Wait,
yeah, wasn't there one?
Okay, we had Antlers.
We had it was the Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, okay, that was the one. That was the only one.
And even then, that had Laszlo, so pretty good. There is one other thing that I want to talk to you about, but it is about the Newkirks, who are the paranormal. What do you even call them? I feel like paranormal investigators gives the wrong connotation. They curate a museum of haunted objects. But that's not their primary mission. We'll have to get into that. That's a much bigger conversation. I don't know. I was watching a live stream with them the other day, and there's something that I want to talk to you about, but you know what? We're just going to have to do it. Yeah. So, they don't like Flanagan's work. I know.
Oh, you should tell me after we recorded this episode.
I'm sorry.
Well, I do not agree with them.
I was like, excuse me? Pardon me?
Why? What is the logic? What?
Yeah.
What could you please give me reasons behind it?
They didn't have exceptional reasons, I wouldn't say.
Good.
It seemed like their problem was that it was form over substance, which I big time disagree with.
Yeah.
I am surprised that would be the complaint. I would actually, like, if somebody was like, Mike Flanagan's work is more of like horror that's about grief, or it's about like big emotions. If that's your complaint, I can see that.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of no substance. So that was a bummer. The one thing that I can kind of agree with, and I might cut this out, is Greg was like, his wife is not a good actress. And I was like,
oh, I like her. Have you seen Hush? We're going to do a series.
No, I haven't seen Hush.
Okay.
Sorry.
I like his wife a lot. So
she just doesn't have a ton of range, I think. No, don't agree?
Sorry, I'm just trying to think of all of her characters is why I am hesitating. She does play a similar character in a lot of things, I think. But
yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not fair to say that she doesn't have a lot of range. Maybe it's that I have not seen her cast in roles where she would be more dynamic.
Yeah, that might be it. Because I still think what she does is fine. Like, I find her characters believable.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's just in the same category of like Robert Downey Jr., where you're like, oh you're going to be the same character every time. Got it. It's a great character. I love it.
Yeah, love it.
But like, no surprises are going to happen.
Yeah, I think that the first time I was introduced to her was in Hush, and I really liked her in Hush. So I already went into it liking her before I even knew who Mike Flanagan was when I started watching he did Hush, but like I didn't seek him out as director after that. I don't know why, but at the time I was just like, oh, I think I was just watching a lot of horror movies back to back, and that was one of them. Or I was just afternoon. It was popped up, you know. I can't remember the circumstances, but I watched it.
I remember you liking it when it came out. And I don't know why I didn't watch. I feel like it's one of those movies where when I see the cover, I think that it is something that I'm not interested in. And then when I read the description.
It is like a blue cover with a woman's face. Oh, God.
What was that? What show did that end up being?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it?
There's no way to know. There is a way to know, and we've gone through it before.
We don't have 5 hours to do it again. So we'll just it was like The Killing. Was that it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Glad we figured that out. That was a long time.
Yeah. For listeners,
a good time, but a long time.
Did not memorize all of our Shooting the Shit episodes. The last time I went to visit you in Seattle, last Christmas, I was trying to describe a TV show why was I trying to describe it? I didn't watch it. I don't know anything about it, but I was trying to describe this icon of a TV show, like the promotional art. And all I could remember, blonde lady, blue tint, maybe there was like water involved. And we discovered that night just how many TV shows have exactly that cover. But we found it. Chelsea found it.
I think after like 40 or 50, you were like, we don't have to do this. And I was like, no, we are so far gone now that if we don't find it.
It's personal.
Oh, yeah, it was. Whew.
Yep. But we got there.
We found it.
We got there.
We did. Because they had even changed. I think they had changed the icon from. So, like, if we were going through Netflix or we were going through whatever streaming service it was, they had changed the icon. So we had to like look at past icons on the internet. It was. Oh my god! It was
my god!
Fun afternoon.
Folks, you could achieve anything that you put your mind to.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example of that. Do you want to talk about this spooky documentary?
Yes, I was trying to also think of a different thing to call them. And I was like, paranormal people sound silly as well. But I don't think that they're technically investigators. I think that they're just people that kind of like not embody the paranormal, but it's like a part of their everyday life. Like they don't seek it out on the weekends. It's just like how they exist.
Yeah. They like... they're like curators. They do investigate stuff though, right? Like Hellier is all an investigation.
Hellier is investigation.
But it's much more about, you know what I think it is? Forteans. Do you remember this guy, Charles Fort, who was a big...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was a big, not paranormal investigator. And...
Alien guy? Wait, am I making that up?
I think... anything spooky. He was a big time skeptic.
Weird stuff.
He wanted to like do the scientific method to investigate stuff like this in order to rule things out. And so it was very much like rule this out, rule this out, rule this out. Oh, it's spooky then. So skeptics not in the non-believer kind of way, but skeptics in the thoughtfully believing way. So maybe Forteans is I don't know. I don't know, man. They have okay, so let's give a little bit of history of the Newkirks. They both started as like ghost hunters in their teens. This is Greg and Dana Newkirk, and they're a larger team than that. We'll get into the other characters in a moment. It's Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer, and Carl with a K, our fave.
Yeah, and we know Carl because have we talked about Carl and how we know Carl with a K?
I think
we don't know him personally. We just love him so.
We love him so much. He is in Denver though. Like I should hang out in Denver on the weekends. See if I can meet Carl with a K.
See if you can run into him.
Yeah. No, yeah, maybe we start there. So Carl Pfeiffer was a ghost hunter on Ghost Hunters Academy.
The first season. Yeah.
The first season. These many, many years ago. And Chelsea and I watched all of Ghost Hunters and all of Ghost Hunters Academy. And he was like one of our favorite. I mean, he was our number one favorite investigator.
I don't know if he was our number one at the start, but I remember the scene in which he became our 100% favorite person.
Describe it.
It's one where I don't remember. I think that they're at like a battleground or a battlefield or something.
Yeah.
And they are in one of the rooms and Steve and Tango are like trying to suss out who is serious about ghost hunting or who's full of shit. And so Steve is like, oh my God, do you smell that? And then he's like sniffing. And he's like, it smells like. And then another guy is like, yeah, I smell it too. And he's like,
another contestant.
Contestant. Yeah. Is like, is it like cigarette smoke? And I can't remember this contestant's name. But then they're starting to like, he's like, yeah, probably like a cigar. And then they start building the story. And then Carl's just like, I don't smell anything. I smell absolutely nothing. And then they kept being like, oh, can you hear that? And then he was like, and then Carl would like walk around the corner and be like, it's just water dripping on something.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, Carl.
We love it. We love a debunker.
The best.
The best.
And that was just a perfect scene.
I know.
He was like, no, absolutely not.
He saw the trap. He didn't walk into the trap. There were no sounds. There was no smoke.
And he was, spoiler, he was the winner of that season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, perfect.
He was sensible.
Yeah.
I do remember why we didn't like him at first. Do you recall?
The necklace.
The puka shell necklace.
Sorry to any of our listeners who wear puka shell necklaces. We do initially have a negative reaction, but you can win us over pretty quickly with logic.
Listen, you can't wear a puka shell necklace in this day and age without knowing that you're bringing a connotation to the table. You can work against the connotation, but that is going to be a barrier. Mm-hmm. Not a barrier, a hurdle. It's going to be a hurdle.
Because we can still get over it. We will. But
I'm going to be honest. It was just that one time that I've ever gotten over it. So fluke or can it be reproduced? And you know what? That's a great question.
Let's test it.
From a ghost hunter. Was it a fluke? Can it be reproduced? We're doing the scientific method up in this bitch.
Amen.
Oh boy. So he is part of the Newkirk world now. I almost said extended universe.
Yeah, it feels like that.
They've got a bunch of projects all in the air right now. But Carl is their photographer and filmmaker. So he directs and films, and I'm pretty sure edits all of their documentary stuff. And he and Connor Randall, who is one of their researchers and another investigator, not their researcher. It's not like the Newkirks and then everybody else. It's 4 people who are working on these things together. Yeah. Connor is also in Denver, and he's a musician. He's a drummer. He's in the band Ghoulies, which I think is a band that people know. Not me personally, but they're out there.
But some people.
And Carl and Connor used to work at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park here in Colorado. And they are the ones, while there, they invented the STS method, using the spirit box in a more controlled setting where the person listening to the box is wearing headphones and can only hear, not noise canceling, it's noise isolating headphones. Listening to the spirit box and also wearing a blindfold so that it's a blind test. So the person asking questions is just getting answers, and the person answering the questions can't be influenced by the questions being asked or facial expressions. And that's great. That's an incredible new way of investigating. And then the Newkirks for a long time had they still have a museum of haunted objects, and they toured with it for a long time. I think they still do sometimes, but it's become sort of less important. But it's a museum of haunted objects and the occult, and one of their big tenets of that is not so much to collect objects that are actually necessarily haunted or cursed or paranormal or whatever, but to tell the stories of those items and to sort of explore the relationship between the person who believes an object is haunted and their trauma.
Yeah.
It's more about, it's the objects are haunted by the people rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
And this whole documentary, The Unbinding, that's a big focus of it, but it's much bigger and weirder than that. So did you know much about, let me give a quick synopsis of it, I suppose. So, years ago in 2016, 2014, a couple of hikers find this idol in a cave in the woods. And it is a wooden carving of an old woman with it's got a noose around its neck and 3 nails driven into each eye, which is very spooky. And they took it home, and spooky stuff started happening, like the smell of pond water and wet footprints through the house, and the idol, which is called the crone now in the community, would move around the house. He'd find it in different places. His dog was freaking out. Eventually starts like seeing an old woman in his house. So he calls up the Newkirks, hears about their museum, is like, will you please take this? And the Newkirks are like, no, go put it back and apologize. And he's, things just escalate. And so he ends up sending it to the Newkirks anyway. And usually haunted stuff like that, it just sits idle in their house. There's not really any activity. But this time there was activity, and it was very spooky. It was very spooky. And a big investigation ensues. We find out a lot of information, and they end up returning her with a lot happening along the way. How much of this did you know about before the documentary?
None.
Yeah.
So whenever it starts off, it does start off with like, so it starts off talking about the Reddit thread where the guy is talking about it, and then they suggest they go to the Newkirks. And I thought it was very similar to I don't want to mess this one up.
You can talk about the
I don't
lamb.
know if it's like the lamb, like spooked. I don't know if it was a spooked episode. Is it a spooked episode?
It was spooked. Yeah.
Okay.
Another podcast.
But that's
allegedly true scary story. No,
yes.
Is it all true on that one?
It's based on the speaker. So if they're telling their story, it'll be based on what they're telling. So it could be true. It might not be. It just depends on who's telling it, I guess. Or if they believe what they're saying, or if their experience, like everyone's experience is their experience.
But it's not fiction. Like you're not going to bring in your short story.
I mean,
yeah.
They might, but I think that they try to, or they expect people to tell real stories.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't like vet every story that somebody brings in.
Of course.
They've had some silly ones that aren't very good. They've had some really good ones on that show.
Yeah.
Well, I've listened to a lot of Spooked, but that one the lamb one was the first one I listened to. And that is one that like felt very reminiscent, not because of it being a haunted item that was really like did a bunch of stuff, but it also like, even when he's telling the story, he talks about having really heavy turmoil with his girlfriend at the time, and that it was like emotionally bound to it. Like, and then I was like, I don't know if anybody would have that same experience, because it seems like it was like, not like a poltergeist manifested from their relationship, but it sounded like they had a terrible relationship, and he brought that in, and then all of a sudden all this bad stuff started happening. I'm not saying that like, I don't know what I'm saying, but it just felt like that was part of it. And then whenever I was watching the documentary, they talk about how sometimes it's just about the person and not necessarily about the item. And once they give up the item, it goes away for them. And that's what happened with them. But like, that was like, I was like, oh, that is really interesting to think about, like the psychological effect. It's just like did we talk about this last time? Like having like a tulpa or something that you're focused on, or that you focus all that negative energy on, that it becomes the thing that kind of like stores that, but it might not have that effect for other people because you're not the ones focusing on it. I don't know, but something like that.
Yeah, that's a big part of what I wish that there was a snappier name to call them. The Haunted Objects crew have been doing lately. In fact, they just got off a big speaking tour, and I wish that I could have seen them when they were at the Stanley in SS. I was out of town. And they were talking about my favorite haunted object, hatred.
Hatred?
Sorry,
I'm still trying to hear more about that.
Me too. I'm so mad. Listeners, if you went to the speaking tour and you saw the presentation on hatred, will you please write in and tell me? I'll pay you. I'll donate to your charity of choice. I'll give you cash. I'll pay the Newkirks. Like, what do you want? I just need this information.
Need to know.
I need it. But on this tour, they brought along a crying boy painting, and they had space at the end of the show for audience members to come up and like have them, like they were trying to intentionally haunt the crying boy painting. And so in order to do this, the experiment is exactly what you were just talking about, intention and like putting your focus into this object. And so they invited audience members to like have a moment with the item, with the crying boy, and like really focus on whatever is causing them pain in their life or like past trauma, and like put that energy into the painting. And a lot of people like came out crying and like said that they felt like so relieved afterward. And a few of them have written in after like weeks after to be like, it's gone. Like it's not a problem for me anymore. And I think that that's so interesting from like a psychological perspective, right? Like you put all of this into an item and then you walk away. That's incredible. Can I do that? Why am I paying for therapy if I can just
you can just put it into an object
find
and go
a crying boy to
let's go to an antique store. We'll find something and then you just shove it in it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got all sorts of weird tchotchkes from the Salvation Army around the house. I can haunt anything. And they haven't done like the live stream on that yet, but I am very interested to go watch it. Like, I think that you are exactly right. The lamb story. Do you want to give a synopsis of that?
Yeah. It was a guy who worked at Walmart, and one day he was like outside and somebody left like a bag, or it was like a brown paper bag, and he opened it up and it had like a tiny little ceramic lamb that had a note that said, "Take me home and I'll be a good little bitch."
Something like that. Yeah.
Something. And then like if somebody saw that, I'd be like, that's funny. Like I wouldn't think it's a haunted object. So then he takes it home. He also describes his relationship with his girlfriend as being pretty tumultuous and not great. And so he takes the lamp home, and then after like they start experiencing a ton of stuff almost immediately. Like this is like really intense. To the point where like things are scratching through the walls, and like it's his girlfriend's with him. That's not happening. And the cats are freaking out all the time. And there's just like a lot of stuff happening. I'm trying to think of like even the escalations, but I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this is so much stuff happening at once. Like, and then he would like go stay out in the car because they would only talk in the car and they wouldn't acknowledge it, because if they acknowledged it, it would get worse. So they had to not acknowledge it. So they kept leaving.
And do you remember it eventually tricked him into acknowledging it? Because it was like mimicking voices. So it said, hey, in his girlfriend's voice. And he was like, hey. Oh.
And then he was like, oh no.
Gotcha, bitch.
And then he had to come out and be like, we have to go to the car. And then he was like, they got me. It got me.
It got me.
Oh yeah. And then he ended up giving it to somebody else who has
it landed in the Ed and Lorraine Warren Museum, didn't it?
It ended up in a different one, and I don't know who it was. And I looked him up later. But like somebody said that it was the Ed and Lorraine Warren, because they even have a lamb in the Conjuring movies that looks similar to the lamb that he had spoken about. But whenever, if you look at the post, he said specifically whose he left it in, and I can't remember the name, but I did end up looking it up. Who's in charge of their museum now? Is it still? Are they still there?
No, girl, they dead.
Okay.
But I think it's their son or like a nephew or something.
It might be the nephew. And I looked it up the other day. I looked it up like 2 weeks ago because I was trying to figure it out where it ended up. And this would have been a good place to remember that.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll find it later. I'll edit it in. While you were talking about that, it made me remember that the lamb was similar to the crone in that it was like ceramic, but then the scarf around its neck was fabric, which is like a surprising thing for something, for like a little tchotchke like that. Was that a binding? Do they need to return?
Maybe.
Do they need
Well,
to
he ended up
return?
just giving it away, and then
Yeah.
all his problems went away. Oh, yeah, he says so on a side note, I watched the Conjuring movies, and in a very short scene, The Conjuring 2, she has a shot of the daughter sleeping on her bed, and on the nightstand, there was an identical lamb to the one he had. Zaphis, the haunted collector.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't, and that's basically the end. Okay, nephew. Okay, it was the nephew, so it is their collection. I was like, even when I was looking at stuff, I was like, this is very similar to what's in. So this makes sense. It lines up. It all
tracks.
Makes sense. It all makes sense. Okay.
Oh, God. Ed and Lorraine were scams. Eventually, we're going to do a series on charlatans so that I can get up on my soapbox. And I can't wait. What do you think of this documentary, The Unbinding?
I enjoyed it. I read, I don't know, I was reading like some comments on it or some reviews because it had, did you read any of the reviews on IMDb?
No.
A lot of people left negative reviews saying this isn't really a documentary, it's fake. And I was like, I don't think it is. And I think that it would have been more sensational if it was fake.
Yeah.
And they probably could have made it more sensational if they wanted to, but I don't think that they went too far with anything. And I felt like it was, I don't know, a lot of it seemed very intentional, which was nice. And I liked the dramatizations that they put into it, like the little clips that they would show of different stuff. I thought that was done very well without overdoing it. So I was very confused about the reviews. I don't know if they were like, I don't know what people thought that they were getting into. Like, I understood what I was getting into, so maybe it was different for me. But some people were just like, I was confused why this was a documentary. And I was like, I mean, if it wasn't, wouldn't it be a little more extreme?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like going through a journey of learning what's happening, which is like, it's not all about like the scares. It's about why and what the object is and how it came to be. And like, you don't get all the answers, and that might be part of people's qualms with it, but you get like a better understanding. And I feel like the resolution to this film, or the end of it, really kind of like, I don't want to be like tied things together nicely, but it was like, I don't know, having an understanding about like how the crone probably felt about religion. And it wasn't necessarily that it was evil. It was just that it had like a tumultuous relationship with religion because of possibly coming from a Ukrainian deity. And like, I was like, that is something I would have never thought of, but it like the parallels make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was, the way that this story progresses was incredible. I know that Hellier gets a lot of bad reviews because there were no goblins.
Well,
I know it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger and more interesting than that. And I think that this probably, I don't want to say that it suffers from the same feedback, because it's not suffering. Those those people are suffering for not opening up their minds. It is it doesn't have like a tidy ending, which I think is what people look for in a documentary. So, and I also think that a lot of people who are interested in spooky stuff want the like, it was a ghost and it is the ghost of this person and they died in this year and we got an interview with their grandson. like very, very direct, very specific, very narrow subjects. And that is not what this crew of people are interested in. Like, everything is, they're very interested in, like,
I think they would be interested if they could find that.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think that I don't think it's, I think that this is going to sound, I think that they're more realistic because it doesn't do that. And I feel like when you pigeonhole it and say it is exactly this and this is what it is probably incorrect.
Yes, 100% agreed. Like, anytime somebody claims to have the exact answer to something paranormal, I'm like, what are you selling? Like, why are you lying?
Yeah.
Like, do you truly believe that? Or am I the product? Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, so this is a much more wooey woo sort of documentary. And I did love, you brought up religion. So when they first found the crone, they bring her home. She's sitting in their office, and there's like a commotion in the office. So Greg goes to check it out, thinks it's one of the cats in there, but the door is closed, opens it up, and he had a crucifix on the wall with a little Jesus pinned to it. And Jesus has fallen off, except for his arm is still attached to the crucifix on the wall, which was just hung up with a nail. Like, not very secure. So something, it looks like ripped Jesus off the wall. And there, sitting below the crucifix, is the crone. And so immediately we have this like religious aspect to it straight away. And they start calling her the crone. And as they investigate, they think that she has a witchcraft background. And I loved the juxtaposition there between the witch of the crone and like Christianity, because Dana Newkirk is a practicing witch, and Greg was being like, when he comes from a long line of Baptist ministers. So I loved the juxtaposition of like this drama between witches and religion in one aspect, and then also this like partnership between them in the investigators.
Yeah.
That's great. It's true.
And it's nice because they both are able to bring context to it that you wouldn't have known otherwise. So that was big fan.
Love it. This is a cute documentary. It's very, what am I trying to say? So the other thing about why I think maybe people feel that it's fake is because it is very stylized. And I think that that's just like a different type of documentary. Like they are telling a story, and that works really well, especially for this story, because one of their main theses in it is like the way that you tell stories is so important. And so you see that in the care that they put into in making the documentary. Like I watched it with subtitles on. Did you?
Did I? I don't know. I think I had it on and off.
But even the subtitles, like they must have transcribed it because even the subtitles are like atmospheric. Like during like title cards or whatever, there were a few over the town in New York where the crone, in the Catskills where the crone was found, and the subtitles were like, an eerie wind whistles through the trees. It's like, who wrote this? Is this Connor? Did Connor do that? So it is very atmospheric. And through this story, they investigate in a myriad of ways with this object, and find out all sorts of information that like you can't check in a history book. It's not going to be written down anywhere. It's just communication with the object or rather the being bound to the object. Like when Dana first saw the crone with the noose around its neck and the nails in the eyes, she was immediately like, this is witchcraft and this is a binding. Like this is to keep something tied to this. And so the big question throughout the documentary is like, are we going to unbind her? Is that the right thing to do? Right.
Yeah.
And pretty
is she
quickly,
bound to it because she needs to be bound to it, or is she did someone unjustly bind her to it?
And there was some very interesting STS sessions with her that were very direct answers, and pretty much straight away we start to see a picture of like, no, she needs help. She was bound here unfairly. And so they decide we need to return her and do a full unbinding. Like, we need to take her home to the mountains where she is from, and we need to free her. And the other thing that they really wanted to do, though, was replicate her. So they wanted to take a cast of her while after the unbinding, so without the noose and the nails. And to do that, they had to do that mold up on the mountain when they were returning her. So they decide we're returning her. It becomes like a big mystical journey up the side of a mountain to take her up to the top of the mountain, man.
Yeah.
And they conduct the mold up there. Was this in the documentary, or is this from my...
It's in the documentary.
Okay.
Yeah, they go up there and they take it is the guy who does the molds. Yeah, he's up there. And
yes.
I don't know if it goes into detail with him, but they say that they're up there doing that. And he's there for that reason.
His name is Tyler Strand. He's also part of the crew. And he went to school to make movie monsters. And so they, for a little while, were selling like Kentucky goblins for Hellier that he molded and painted. So he goes with them to take a mold of the crone. And here is something that they totally left out of this unbinding ritual. Or I guess it's after the unbinding. We'll talk about the ritual more in a moment, because I think that that's very fascinating. But after the ritual is complete, we've unbound the crone. They are going to take a mold of her, and they left this whole part out of the documentary. They had to do that in a tent with like a space heater going, or like a propane heater, because it was the end of October. It's cold up on the mountain. And the material that they need to, that is going to be the mold needs to be kept at like 80 degrees. It's very sensitive.
Oh, wow.
And so they were like trying to do this in the tent, and it was going so poorly. It is like Dana is sitting outside because she just did all of this witchcraft to unbind this being. And so she's tired. She's sitting outside. The boys are in the tent trying to get a mold and fucking it up at every turn. And it's so hot in the tent, and they're just like screaming. And Dana is outside like, what is going on in there? And like, they had built a whole rig beforehand. The plan was adhere her to the bottom of a container, pour the liquid in, let it sit, cut it open, get her out. They were doing that. They stuck her in, they poured her the liquid, she floats to the top. Like immediately we're fucked up. So they're like, what do we do? And they ended up like rigging it so that she's in there upside down. Like if she wants to be at the top, okay, we're doing it at the top. So we've got her stuck to something like a rod on top of the bucket that they're doing this in. And they just like duct tape the shit out of it. Like I see why they left that out of the documentary, because that isn't super aesthetic, but it is so funny.
They did leave the beautiful like Post-it notes and highlighter stuff that was, I was like, I like this. This seems like a practical, like big fan of the unbinding.
Yes. So that is during the ritual. They create like a sacred space and, cast a circle and surround the circle with black salt, and then anoint all of their tools that they are going to use to remove the nails and remove the noose. And then they do that, and she is free. And this is a very emotional scene, but as they're taking the nails out, they're just putting sticky notes on them so that they can remember the order and like Yes. And like Dana's she's doing this like big magic ritual and she's in sweatpants and they're like anointing garden tools. And it is so lovely. Like practical is exactly the right word. She's a very practical witch. Like she has the aesthetic, right? Like she's very ethereal and she's got the dark hair. But then, we're having to hike. I'm not going to wear my like flowy black dress up there. I'm going to wear sweats and boots. And like I have to use pliers. So I'm anointing pliers. And I think that is surprising to people. But like they become sacred because you're using them in this sacred ritual. So why wouldn't you anoint them? I just think that's really cool that was focused here.
I also like that she talked about how she has people that she practices with that were all channeling at that time towards helping it, which I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense if they direct their energy towards it and they're doing the same type of, that makes sense.
I love that. That's so cool. And that is like one of their Patreon tiers. That's their Magic of the Month club. Gets you access to her witchcraft classes. And those, I've only seen like snippets of them, but those look really practical too. Like you just get it doesn't matter how cutesy your tools are. Like you're doing a job or you're not even necessarily a job, but like you have a goal, do the task. You don't have to like, not everything has to be curated. Which is
you don't have to do it for a show. You're doing it for
precisely
real.
Yes. Like, that is what I was trying to say.
And that's why it felt like it. That's why I was like, oh, I mean, this feels, if I was trying to make a fake documentary, I would have worn the flowy dress. I would have used the weird looking pliers that are from the 14th century or whatever. Like you don't like, that's why it felt not, it felt genuine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think that's what people's problem was, is it didn't feel genuine, but that's because it had, I don't know. I didn't agree with those reviews is what I'm saying. I did not agree with them.
Yeah.
I do not agree with their stance on Mike Flanagan, but there's just all around disagreement and agreement here.
Yeah. I just feel like maybe if we can get them.
Did they watch all of it and they still don't feel that way? Or like, did they give up on it really quickly? Like what?
Well,
did they watch all of it and they're like, I don't like it. I don't. What is it? What is it?
They were saying that they would get like a few episodes in. Dana especially was like, I love the style of his, like, I love how they look and I love the atmosphere that he builds. And then like a few episodes in, I get bored and I was like, how dare you? How dare you? I'm going to end my Patreon subscription over this. There is one other thing that I bet they left out a bunch of stuff, but I've been watching the like live streams about this and I've read the artifact files on the Crone. So I know a little bit more information. Like this was a years long journey. Like I said, they got it in 2016 and they only returned her in 2021, I think 22 maybe. And it must've been 21. And it's just been like a long path to get to the unbinding. Yeah. And they left out a piece of information that I know from all of this backstory. And I think that it is very interesting that they left it out. When they were doing the unbinding, outside of the circle that they had cast, they kept hearing footsteps and like footsteps in boots. Like,
oh, weird.
Like they said that it sounded like somebody was trying to get in and around the whole circle. Like it was just circling them, looking for a point of entry. They can't see anything. Like they've got a bonfire and like they can see a little past their circle. But what really stood out to me was they would hear these footsteps and they'd hear it approach and it felt like the darkness was was like
Oh,
closing in on them, like getting denser around the outside
yeah.
of their circle. And then they could hear it walk away and it would like get lighter again. And that
Oh,
is so spooky to me.
yeah. I'm shocked that they
And
didn't include that.
I wonder a lot of things. So here is the thing that I wonder most excitedly. I think that it might be related to hatred.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, quick background on this locked away, super scary haunted object in their collection that they've had for years and that they've stopped talking about for years, except for apparently on this latest live stream. So they got a call from a guy in Chicago who was so super scared of this object that he had made, and it is very much the same story. So this guy, during a very dark time in his life, was very, very, very angry at Christianity. And he, like an uncontrollable, unhealthy anger, he was like, all Christians should be dead. The whole religion should end. And he built this little, it's like a little like doll, makes it sound too cute. This little figure.
It's not cute.
It's not cute. And it looks like it's out of a fucking scary movie. Like this, he should pursue a career in prop making because this was incredible.
Yeah.
Except that it is very scary. And so he like sculpted and fired a very scary head with like horns and like empty eye sockets and a big gaping mouth. And it's like burlap, a burlap body, but underneath in like up inside the burlap is like barbed wire and pins designed to poke you. They're like hidden. So you grab the thing and then you cut yourself. And now you're bleeding on this like weird haunted object.
Evil doll. Yeah.
Oh boy. And this guy was so scared of it. He said that every time he like brought it out, bad things would start to happen, including he would get uncontrollably angry again. And in fact, when the Newkirks went to pick up this item, he took it out to show them. He's telling them the history of it. And he starts to get uncontrollably angry. Like in their artifact files, there is a video of this. His face is blurred for privacy. And you can see him start to like flex his hands. Like it's like they're uncontrollably turning into fists and he's having to like purposefully hold them open again. His like breathing is changing. So they like put it back in its box, move it away from him. Dana is there with some like protective totems and she like gives those to him. But while they are talking, he was a custodian at a high school. And so they are in the high school for this pickup and they start hearing footsteps in another room and like tables being moved around. And the Newkirks are like, oh, I thought you said the school was empty. This is after hours. This is the middle of the night. And he's like, we are empty. That's it. And so we're hearing those like booted footsteps back there. And so I wonder if there's a relationship there because there's also like a big crone live stream where hatred was in the room and something was going on there. Like it's so spooky.
I'm just excited to hear more about
it.
Yeah. Or if they had to stop talking about it. I mean, I don't know if I want to know why.
Well, I
did
think
something get really bad if they did? Because they don't seem like the kind of people who would hold back from telling anyone. But
that is the
would
frustrating
it have to be really
thing.
bad?
What I suspect is not that it was really bad. Like I'm certain that crazy stuff did happen. They only seem to hold back when they're working on a larger story and that if they are going to share this information, it could impact the integrity of their investigation. And so I suspect that they have been holding back because this is ongoing in the background.
Yeah, we're very excited to see what continues to happen with it.
I need to know.
I'm very excited to hear Kelly tell me what's happening.
But But yeah, and boy, the end of this took a crazy turn, and I did not know anything about the Ukrainian part
No.
of this. None of that was in their archives, and I
Oh,
think for the
okay.
same reason. Like they didn't
Because they were
want
holding
to.
back. Got it. It
Right.
was a nice little twist, but to think about it, like the thing that I loved about that one, and I know it even kind of goes on to questioning still if that was the correct answer at the end, but like saying it was something that was neutral, and that's not something that you see in many of these things. That
Right.
like it's this thing that's like an angel trying to protect you, or it's an evil demon. Like it's never a neutral entity, and this was like, this is neutral.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, it might be. It's not doing anything to hurt anyone. It doesn't seem like
right.
it's just kind of there.
Well, I mean, some crazy shit did happen though, right? Like,
yeah,
when they opened up the box at Michigan Paracon,
yeah,
and like it was like a fucking bomb went off. Like they opened the box, the crone hadn't been out in a long time because she had been like abusive in their home.
Yeah.
So they put her in this box, opened her up to show somebody who was begging to see her at this paranormal conference, and like they could see immediately like crazy things happening. Like they were at the end of the hall, and it's like things start happening close to them, and then it just like ripples down the length of the hallway. Some of it, weird but not scary. Like, oh, soda pop fell over and like ruined books. Like, okay, that's sucks and weird, but like not scary. But then a guy had a huge seizure at the end of the hall, including like bleeding, which is bonkers. So, and then they put her away for longer. They were like, we can't be taking her places anymore. And that sounds negative, but also imagine if you've been like, the thing about a creature
you
that
put
is
it in a box,
right? The thing about a powerful entity
now.
that is neutral means that it doesn't care about you. So you open the box and it is furious and it lashes out with all of this energy. And that still is neutral, right? Like it's not targeted. But we've talked about that a lot in our horror movies. Like, can you, especially with more like broader monsters, like I just know we've compared some scary movies or scary monsters to like natural disasters. Like it's not targeting you. It doesn't care about you. It's something else entirely. So I loved that they discussed that. I was like, this is what I've been saying. But yeah, I don't know, they didn't ever really feel like they had a full understanding of her and of the crone and her background. There were some stories that seemed like they might be related. Like a hedge witch in the area who was very tall and had grown a very large beard, a woman. And they thought maybe it was her, or maybe it was related to like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like American witches. But as they get to the town to return the crone, they find that this is a Ukrainian community of neo-pagans, and that there is a long history of them being in this region. And they do a little bit more investigation, and they find that there is a deity in that religion called Mokosh, who is frequently depicted exactly as the crone, in that she is always holding something, like the same posture, always holding something. And you can see on the crone idol that they had, she had been holding something at some point, and it had been pulled away. And she was known to be very tall and often like hunched over. And she was also, gosh, I wish I could remember what she was like the goddess of. It was normal stuff that women are usually goddesses of, like fertility or whatever.
Protector of women's work and women's destiny.
Oh, dope.
She's one of the 7 primordial deities. Moist Mother Earth.
Ew.
What were the names in Suspiria? What were the names of the mothers in Suspiria?
Oh, I don't know. I cannot recall that.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I was not.
Were they of this?
Well, probably not. Well, it's in
Maybe.
Mokosh and Mokos. Wasn't that similar to one of them?
I have no memory.
Man, me neither. We'll have to go back and think about that. There's
I'll have to rewatch Suspiria. Oh no.
Oh, bummer. Sleeping by a cave, flowering. As a creator, she is said to have been discovered sleeping in a cave.
Caves
by a flowering spring, by the spring of the god Jarilo, created from the fruits of the earth. The origins of Mokosh's Mother Earth may date to pre-Indo-European times. Huh. Yeah, but I was like, oh, this is a bunch of stuff that I've never heard of ever. Yeah. And they talked about, and they spoke to somebody who did know a little bit about it, but she was like, they didn't record it because they weren't a rich community. Like their history, they didn't have a lot of money, so they weren't able to record their history. And I was like, that is bonkers to think about all these people that had these deities that they pray to that are forgotten. And I was like, that is
it's so
a bonkers
sad
thing to think about. Yeah. Like I was like, I've never even considered that, and having that like open up just a whole new thing.
It's the same with the Druids. They didn't write anything down. So we have like Stonehenge or whatever. And we're like, what?
What is it?
What is
this here?
They're like, oh, whoops, didn't write it down.
Marcos. Sorry.
Marcos.
That's a Suspiria one. That's where I got.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But yeah, part of why this neo-pagan group, I mean, they were, persecuted by Christianity. Classic Christianity. But the thing that is interesting, it's all interesting, but Mokosh was known to have like she rolled deep. She had a posse, and one of them was a kikimora, which was like a swampy thing and would steal children and would leave wet footprints.
Which is very similar to everything that happened.
Yep. So spooky. And I read a little bit about that. And like people would intentionally haunt other people. Like if builders were building your house and you like were making late payments or you were shitty to them, they would bring a kikimora in and be like, welcome to your house, bitch. Which I love.
That's pretty sneaky.
It's so sneaky and very creative. That's a great way. That's a great way to get back at somebody for not paying you. Yeah, I don't know. This was a really beautiful documentary, and I think that it's one that we'll be able to like return to over like decades and see how, I don't know, how we've evolved and and like what we've learned then, and does it change the way that we look at this now, or is this foundational? I don't know. This was very interesting, and I loved the way that this whole group thinks about big mysteries like this.
Yeah.
Like the universe is large and weird and moves in large and weird ways. and like understanding those moves is less important than learning how to roll with them. Yeah. Cue. Doesn't Van Halen have that song that's like about rolling with the punches?
I was going to say Panama.
Not the homies. Yeah, that's it. No, that's the one. Panama. What are your closing thoughts?
It's on. I think I ordered it on Prime. Did I get it on Prime?
That's where I got it.
I purchased it.
It's also available on Apple. I think it's on a handful of places. They worked hard to make it available, not just in America, but internationally. Yeah.
And it's not, I recommend people, if you're into this, definitely get it.
Yeah.
It's not like I know we talk about scary movies a lot. It's not a scary movie. It is a documentary that opened my mind up to a lot of things that I had not understood before, which was kind of cool. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a good one. I will definitely be watching it again. So those are my final thoughts.
Absolutely. And it isn't a horror movie, like you said, but some of those reenactments were like, so like I know this
the
story.
Beginning part. Yeah.
Those were, I was getting goosebumps. They reminded me of the most scary movie I've ever seen, which was also a documentary about sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
So yeah, those reenactments were pretty spooky.
I liked it. I thought it was beautifully done. Yeah.
Loved it. It's beautiful. I loved how thoughtfully they portrayed magic and witchcraft, which was another nice parallel. Like, I'm so glad that that Dana was there to do the Unbinding. I think that was beautiful. And also y'all should watch Hellier if you haven't already. Because there are I think there's a lot of similar concepts going on there, especially as the show progresses. The docuseries progresses.
I mean, it's always being open to different answers and trying to just figure stuff out. And just being open, which is really...
Yep. Yeah.
A good way to approach things.
Yes. Especially big mystery, weird things. Don't always assume the worst. Like, listen to the story, hear the story. And that is it for the Unbinding.
That is it for the Unbinding.
In 2 weeks, we will be in 2 weeks. We will be kicking off our next series, which is called Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And we will be starting with the movie Totally Killer, which just came out on Netflix. I don't know. What's time?
Sometime. It was pretty recent. Like it still is pretty recent. Like
I feel like it came out the same weekend as
Halloween?
The Unbinding.
Did it?
I think it might have.
Okay.
Huh. Choosing to believe that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And do we have any other? Is that it? Just announce the new series? You can't think of anything.
That's it. Well, if you still want to listen to us on the weeks that you don't hear us here, we are over at Debut Buddies, and you can catch us over there with Nate. That's all I can think of as well. Hopefully, no, I was going to say eventually we'll have some more guests on, but I don't want to make any promises to you guys because we are having a hard enough time just having it just be us right now. So
That's true. But we're working on it.
We've got some exciting stuff in the new year.
Yes.
That's what I'll say. I have confidence in the new year.
So come back in 2 weeks, which is still this year.
And hopefully we'll have an episode for it.
Yeah. On Totally Killer. So, as always, you can email us, noshowmonster@gmail.com. You can find us on the social medias. Sorry. We're going to have guests, so we brought Sean Connery in to do the outro. Social media at noshowmonster. And happy spooky.
Happy spookies.